Okay, we're now recording. This is the first episode of MashHoles. That's the best I got. And here...
That's an interesting name.
I didn't know what to call it. I thought it was funny. I mean, I already had...
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah, no, it's... But, yeah, this is what we're gonna be doing. I'm gonna... You know what? We'll do this, like, once per month or something, or once every 2 months. And you can do whatever. You can listen to it in your car. You can listen to it with your children. Probably not. I wouldn't do that. Listen to it while you sleep. That's probably what you're doing. In which case, there definitely won't be a very scary noise that we play halfway through to, you know, mess with you. But today... Meow. Oh, But yeah, our first guest on today's episode is the leader of Pigments, better known as
Drezrale.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly. And what do you specialize in? What's your favorite thing that you love?
Screaming at hobbyists about how stupid they are with their safety precautions.
Well, that's a strong start already. Jesus.
Yeah. Hey. I've seen people drink like actual bottles of Dirty Downs, and that's xylene. Xylene is nasty. Yeah. No, don't drink Dirty Downs.
For some reason, I had this weird thing in my head. I was like, oh, they're being too safe. No, like I know that like everybody does like the funny like taste test joke, but like I mean, you mentioned that even like basic acrylics you should not put in your tum.
Oh no, most acrylics are going to have something called chloromethyl isothiazolone, which is a biocide that's banned in a few countries for different things like shampoo and things of that nature, stuff like that. It basically causes skin rashes when it's on your skin in rare cases, but if you ingest it, you can get some issues with like different soaps causing rashes as well.
Interesting.
So,
Jesus.
Not something you really want to screw around with. It sounds not that bad, but you know, when soaps are you're allergic to soap, you kind of get into a problem there.
Ah, that'll.
But then again, this is the Warhammer community, and nobody showers, so.
Yeah, so if you want to explain your credentials a little bit for those who are not familiar.
I'm a material application specialist within the coatings industry. I primarily work within the automotive coatings industry. Wow, I cannot speak. But I do work sometimes within the art industry as well. Mostly what I do is product quality control and like stuff of that nature. A lot of regulatory work, making sure things follow correct ASTM guidelines, things of that nature. So, yelling at employees that they need to wear a mask because that's what OSHA demands, and them screaming at me, but I don't want to. It's that type of thing.
Yeah, it's a different situation when it actually is like, you know, I think a lot of people were burnt out after a while, but I don't think I get the feeling a lot of the chemicals you work with are quite worth the effort of or something, you know.
I mean, there's certain times when it's just like, I'm not having this argument today with an organic chemist, and then the next day that we're making some like ultramarine green or something like that, and they're not wearing anything and they're doing it outside of a fume hood, and I'm having to make sure that they're not dying of cyanide gas.
Yeah, like
so
that's the thing is like, you know, I don't, as somebody that's worked within OSHA guidelines before, like I understand that it is like basically baby shit. And like most of it, like the basics of like don't stand on the top rung to me seems pretty obvious at this point. But like that's one of those things where it's like, you don't know what you don't entirely know what you're messing with. So when you have an actual specialist telling you, like that's gonna be interesting to deal with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't start out that way, but it just kind of ended that way because, it's that way now, I should say. Mostly because I know how to scream at people really well, and I can scare insane people like organic chemists and artists. So that was fun to learn.
Are organic chemists typically very insane?
If anyone who has a chemistry degree and has worked with organic chemists in the comments wants to say anything about how insane they are, please do. Because, well, yeah.
I'm genuinely curious, like, what about them is so wacky, you reckon? Or just curiosity
it's really
examples.
Hard to explain.
Yeah, okay, I get you. They're just kind of a vague crowd.
I don't know if I can say this on YouTube. Take the most weaponized autism you've ever seen and refine it, and then remove every single ounce, like the milligrams, the micrograms of social skills,
I get you.
and then put them on hardcore meth. AKA Adderall, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's the typical organic chemist, like super one-track mind, typically really incredibly smart, but outside of their specific field, they're the type that would stick a fork in an
idiot
outlet
savant,
because
as one would
they
say.
need to clean. Yeah, pretty much, yes.
Interesting.
That's how a lot of them are. Not all of them are like that, but yeah, most of the ones I've worked with have been like that. I've had to stop them from sticking forks into toasters that they turned on before.
Well, that's for all the organic chemists out there that are watching this. Please add in any 2 cents to argue this sentiment, because I'm curious to see. Plus, I just really want to see a fight between organic chemists and Mr. Pigment here, because I think that would be fun to watch.
Yeah. It is.
So, kind of the preface that we wanted to talk about initially when I said I wanted to do a podcast with you, or at least an episode, is we kind of talked about we were talking about just certain art styles that have evolved throughout the years. And there were some things that I was curious about that, we kind of briefly touched on, but it was like, I kind of wanted to change it up because I wasn't exactly sure what, we were going to talk about. And I'm sure, like, once the actual video is completed, I'm sure I'll, like, title it whatever main conversational point we kind of came to is. But you were talking about some yesterday that I found very interesting, and I was curious if you wanted to, bring up some of the images and some of the art styles that you were showing me.
Oh yeah, like with John Blanche and whatnot.
Exactly.
So not everyone knows John Blanche within the 40K hobby, and if you don't, are you an actual 40K fan at all? Come on. Yeah.
Maybe not by name, but if you've seen his art. Because I didn't recognize him by name, but I knew exactly,
Yeah. Most people at least know the term Blanchitsu, right?
Yes. Yeah, I would say that I had heard of it, but, Yeah.
Blanchitsu comes from John Blanche, his name. So, that type of thing.
So, yeah, that was something that I was curious about, because we kind of talked about it yesterday, just like the evolution of his art style to the more, modern style that he's kind of adapted and kind of become very recognizable for, because there's so many, there's a lot of different art styles that he's kind of done over the years, mostly being like, as we spoke about, the more original heavy metal style, or heavy metal rather. with the we talked a lot about the orangish colors and a lot of like what made original heavy metal so iconic.
Yeah, the orange colors actually are a really fascinating thing because it's something that people don't know about. The closest thing we have to true red is Pyro Red. Pyro Red wasn't invented until, or didn't publicly release until 1984, which up until then, the majority of red pigments are orange, and to this day, the majority of them are actually orange, not red, which causes some problems when you're trying to mix colors, but let's not get into that right now. So a lot of what you see is that, the Corn Berserkers and the what Belisarius Cold are this very, deep reddish orangey color because of how the pigment production stuff. Pyro Red really didn't make it to the UK until, 1989, something like that. Mm-hmm. Didn't really make it into the art market as a whole until the 90s. And even today, it's kind of still not here. It's only with a few brands, and just as a whole, it's not very common, and it's still extremely expensive. So most brands don't actually use it because of how expensive it is.
It's become a premium or has it always kind of been a premium?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, it has.
I figured, but I just wanted to be more.
Yeah, it's I know a little bit of a off tangent thing or off the subject here, but
That's totally
how
fine.
the pigment supply thing typically works is gets invented, takes about 5 years to get into production, sometimes longer. Yinmin Blue, the newest blue on the market, invented in 2015 or 2012, something like that. It took about 8 years to get into the market. Took a little bit longer due to its materials, but it takes 4 or 5 years for it to hit production, so that they could put it on the market. Then it takes another 5 years for companies to adopt it in different things. The auto industry is typically the first one. It gets offered to them. If they don't want it, then industrial is the next. So home, stuff like that, home, safety equipment, etc., exterior paint. If they don't want it, then it probably isn't going to get produced.
Yeah, you mentioned that a lot is just the auto industry seems to be, and like I was saying previously before we started recording, it's it makes so much sense that it would be such a big proprietor of paint, and it's not something I think a lot of us really think about is how influential, or at least not necessarily influential. No, that's probably the right word, but just how much influence they have over that market, because everybody drives cars.
It's the artist paint market, artist market as a whole. I think it's market cap is about $2 billion or something like that. The auto industry alone is 300 billion for paint. That is 200-300 billion.
Jesus.
So it's a huge market. Industrial is another 150 billion, and artists is I see a lot of things ranging from 200 million up to 2 billion per year in sales, which I cannot get an accurate thing because a lot of the artist brands are privately owned, Golden is employee owned. Yeah. So we have to extrapolate data from Colart, who owns Liquitex and Winsor & Newton. We know a vague range of how much Golden makes, and we know that Golden and Liquitex are very similar in terms of sales. So Liquitex and Winsor & Newton, or Colart, is in terms of sales specifically, because Liquitex and Winsor & Newton aren't on the market because they're whatever. But yeah, Golden and Colart are really close in sales. So that means that Colart has to own 2 major large brands most people in this hobby have heard of to match Golden, which is hilarious. They still beat Golden, but they own 12 different black brands. So yeah, it's a huge thing. But it's such a tiny market. which Vallejo, which everyone knows Vallejo in this hobby as well. They're a professional artist paint company. They weren't even in the top 20.
In terms of
and they're still, they're still not even up in the top 20 in terms of paint companies. Golden isn't even, if we count all types of paint companies, Golden isn't even in the top 20. And they're one of the top ones for the artist sector.
Any brash examples that people might know within the more hobby scene?
Sherman-Williams, Behr.
Yeah.
Those are two of the largest ones. Sherman-Williams, I think, is the largest, or it's the second largest one in the world. They do a lot of home and auto stuff, mostly home.
Yeah, because I know Behr is mostly home, so that might be the most recognizable amongst the hobby crowd, or at least the more miniature painting side of the crowd.
There's also the technicality here of Tamiya.
Oh, I suppose I didn't think of that.
Tamiya, so they don't make their own paint. They outsource their paint to, I think it's Nippon Chemical. I have to check again. It's hard to find the information sometimes.
Yeah, especially
I also Japanese.
I was about to say, assumably a language barrier there that might be a little bit hard to get the data on.
Yeah. Well, it's I have to. So Japanese MSDSs, they typically have they're required to have the manufacturer of who makes their stuff. And with American ones, they don't have to put their actual manufacturer, they can put their own name on there.
Interesting.
Or they'll put like some random thing on there that is just a subsidiary of theirs. It's how we get things like Army Painter saying they make their own spray cans when they don't have the machinery for that. Those machines cost like $20-something million. So
that's always
like
maybe not mostly your level of expertise, or I would have to imagine you probably know something on it, but I was curious, is there any overlap with bottling that, between Vallejo and Army Painter, since their bottles are so similar? Is there like specific patents on those types of bottles? And
no.
Okay, that's what I figured, but I was just curious.
You can most of those bottles are they're just typical disposable dropper bottles. They get used a lot in like medical industries and stuff like that for eye drops and things of that nature. They've existed for well before those paint companies existed. Those bottles have been around for a while. A lot of people use them for like different types of dyes as well. You can get like tie dyes or like.
Yeah, I just suppose that to me, like, that would be interesting to see, like, more. I'm sure at some point in my life, probably well before I've painted miniatures, or maybe just during it when I haven't really had the pattern recognition, but just finding something that is identical to one of my paint bottles out in the wild. I can only imagine that'd be kind of interesting. So
I mean, I can. So if I grab them. Was it New Age Turbo Dork? The new formula of Turbo Dork uses a different bottle, and their new bottles actually say who makes their bottles right under the cap, which is funny to me.
Under the cap, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's look, it's a company that actually markets their bottles, so that was kind of cool. I like the bottles, by the way. They're pretty good bottles.
I've used Turbo Dork very sparingly, but I do like the bottle design a lot.
Yeah. Specifically their new formula. Their old formula bottles are awful.
Yeah,
that was
stereotypical
bottle though.
So I do know, based on conversations we've had prior, so you have kind of a mixed opinion on Pro-Acryl, and I was, and for those who don't know, his standards are very high because of what he works in, so it isn't necessarily like a dig on it.
No.
Within some reasons, sometimes, but this is one of those things that I think I actually got a lot of flack for this and I don't know if it was deservingly or not. Personally, I think that Pro Acryl's bottles kind of stink. And I was curious to your opinion, see if I could get affirmed on my beliefs, or perhaps maybe I could be more educated in the, just on the packaging.
So they used a twist top type thing instead of a living clamp. I think a living clamp is better. However, twist top can be really good for certain types of paints. And when you're doing a more fluid acrylic type thing, like an ink, twist top is going to be better overall because it's going to give you a better flow control.
Yeah, I would agree with the shades.
Yeah. With their actual paint, I know a lot of people say how thin it is. That paint is thick to me. Like really thick, because they use a lot of stuff like hydroxyethyl cellulose, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Different types of rheology modifiers. A lot of chalk too. But the bottle design, I don't think is necessarily bad. I don't think it's great, but it could be better, but it could also be way worse. It could be P3 bottles.
Yeah, P3, I thought they looked cute, but like it's like the same with Citadel pots, where it's like even Citadel pots, I would argue, have more going for them than old P3. That was actually something I wanted to talk about too, just like if you don't mind, side tangent. Because P3 I always found to be kind of an interesting, like, kind of little rabbit hole, because like P3 was really popular for like 5 minutes, and then it just vanished off the face of the earth. And there were some paints I actually really liked from them, like Brass Balls and Pig Iron. I really liked from P3, but
I have an unopened bottle of Brass Balls if you want it.
I would definitely use it.
I have a bunch of their paint here. I used it for testing. It failed miserably, by the way.
Doesn't keep well, or just by your standardization.
So, one of the tests is to put it on. We put it on. There's 2 different types of plastic we put it on. It's God damn it. We put it on a couple different things, including photopolymer resin. We just included photopolymer resin as, and if the acrylic paint doesn't adhere to it, it's considered a fail.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So like, okay, I understand what you mean. Because like that's one example that I think a lot of people are either hypercritical of Citadel paints, when by comparison to a lot of brands, they're pretty over. I mean, they're good average, but they adhere pretty well to plastic overall.
Yeah. I mean, that's because they're made by HMG, which manufactures both auto and home paint.
That I didn't know. That's interesting.
I actually can show you all the proof of that too. They're really public about it. One thing, I give Games Workshop a lot of flack for a lot of their stupid decisions.
Yeah, business
and
decisions.
I don't like Games Workshop.
Yeah.
But there's one thing I will always give them mad respect for. They are one of the few hobby companies who actually have a good MSDS that is well detailed and actually like touches on safety aspects.
That's cool.
They are also one of the few hobby brands that conforms to ASTM standards, or at least one of the standards, which they even label on the bottle. Vallejo claims they do, they don't, but they do on the bottle. They are also the only brand that lists that they have chloromethyl isothiazolinone in the bottle. See Mitmit. On the Citadel pots, you'll see this thing that says like C, like bit /C mit, and then /mit, stuff like that. That's isolindolinone.
We actually have that right here.
Yeah.
I might put this on. Well, there we go.
Yeah. So that would be they're conform, and then on the other side of it, the other end, you'll see that that cement thing. Right. So, That's the same side.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of like.
It would be that side right. No, that one doesn't have it. Weird.
This is a bit of an older one, maybe. Let me grab a newer one.
Yeah. Some may or may not. I have an old one. I have a Mordian blue bottle here.
This
actually.
is a 2012 one, so that might be.
Edge paint. I've never heard of edge paint before.
They were. I don't know if they still sell them, but they were kind of a short-lived. At least from what I saw at my hobby store, because I can never find it anymore, but. It's just like an extra like edge highlight paint that are just they're all really strong paints. And they're pretty good. I think I have another one.
Ah, here we go. Here's some Rhinox hide from and it says it right there.
If you wanna if you wanna take a picture of that, actually, we can put that up because I'm not currently recording your side apparently.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a picture of that.
I can just put that in post. This is from the past, and this is from the future.
Perfect. That's the bio side. They're one of the few companies that does it. I can tell you right now who makes a lot of different brands or a lot of different paints for different brands, and I can tell you what bio sets are in them because I know the brands and what they use. And a couple brands I'm not going to name here don't list anything, and they refuse to even give you MSDSs, which is against the law in multiple countries, especially the one that they're in. So that there's a reason why I'm very critical of hobby paint as a whole. It's from an industrial aspect and a quality thing. I do a lot of quality control. I sort of know the chemistry of paint, so. Yeah. But yeah, no, in GW paint, it's not necessarily bad paint, it's just grossly overpriced.
Yeah, I think that's exactly. Like, I honestly think it's one of the better paints for newer painters to learn off of. And I kind of have that sentiment, but maybe you would not agree with that.
I know both sides of it. I've hung out with a lot of newer painters. I've taught a lot of new painters how to do things. And it's one of those really tricky things where it really depends on the person.
Yeah.
Right. I know new painters who could not get the hang of the painting opaquely thing, but you give them contrast paint and they went off.
Right.
Because it made more sense. All you had to do was tell them that, the more layers you put on with the transparent paint, the darker it gets. Like, that makes perfect sense. Thin layer, second layer, third layer, shadows get fourth, fifth layer, stuff like that.
Happy birthday, hey, look, it's worked out.
Yeah. Some people can't get their
noodle around
their brain around that. Some people just prefer painting opaquely because they don't want to learn anything else, and it just seems like it's the correct thing to do because that's what all of the guides out there are for. It seems let's just layer this and layer that, and then edit the video and post so it seems like we blended it, and then the person complains in the comments about why doesn't mine look like that. A, brush control. B, they edited the video. Or Instagram.
I like that we're fair there too. Brush control and because there is definitely like and I will give credit to some hobbyists that like at least whenever I mess up, I like to try to like either show it or if I couldn't get it on camera, I try to show or like at least verbally describe what I'm doing. But, it's one of those things that sometimes getting it right on camera is not the easiest thing to do in the world. But when it comes to people that are just blatantly, I don't know if it's as common as people claim, but like, there's certainly a lot of painters where it's very clear, like, okay, I've used Photoshop before, I can tell when something doesn't seem right. Not gonna name examples, obviously, because we're sneaky little sleuths. We're gonna be our scary little centrist selves. But it's
Good old Kentuckistani imps, right?
Exactly. Well, you're like a alchemist guy from
Yeah.
But yeah,
from who knows where? I don't even know where.
From we could do like the old Kane parts unknown thing, the old wrestling parts unknown announcement thing. Just say that, or from like your
I've
darkest.
Never actually watched wrestling.
For some reason, that surprises me.
It surprises a lot of people, but also it surprises people when I tell them what type of music I listen to too. So you know.
What do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of agrotech and 80s darkwave.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say
the agrotech is what confuses people.
I was gonna say more like, oh, like I thought you were gonna say like, you know, like country or something like that.
I mean, I like me some Johnny Cash.
Well, that's different. That's like, I think most people think of country music. They think of like new age country.
Nah, outlaw country's where it's at.
Outlaw country. Woo!
I like outlaw country, man.
We got to get a little bit of a, yeah, we got to get that in there. But yeah, no, that's I think that's one of those things. Just overall, like circling back more to like, you know, to P3, like it is interesting to me like how many, because there's really a lot more painting companies in the hobby sector than I think people kind of like realize once you like step back and like think about it.
Yeah, I currently have over 4,000 brands of hobby paint here.
Yeah, well, and I think P3 is interesting to me because I can't like, are they still in circulation or are they just gone?
Oh no, it was Coats to Arms that recently went away. So P3 is made by HMG, who knew? Same with Coats to Arms. Which there's actually a little funny thing about that. The reason why P3 has been hard to get is because Coats to Arms recently got sold, or was getting sold. And P3 was kind of supposedly they were going through Coats to Arms, but it was more like they were going through HMG, and HMG just doesn't want to manufacture those pots or get those pots if there isn't enough sales, and neither company makes enough sales. So
yeah, it was kind of weird, like going on the website that they have them. I can't tell if it's like even an active site. It looks dead. It looks like it hasn't been updated in a while, and I was curious because some of the paints I did like, there wasn't a lot of them that I used. I actually used quite a few of their inks, and I found their inks to be very interesting because they were super loaded with pigment. Even by comparison to some that I used, but
I'm going to send you a bottle of ink that I use, by the way.
Yeah, I would love to do a little follow-up using some of these things, because for people that don't know, we're gonna do a part 2 to the Artificer tint set video. That's actually how we started talking, actually. That's kind of a good point here that we want to make.
Yeah, I pointed out what pigments were in the Artificer tint set. Well, most likely what pigments are there. I'd have to get them in person, especially the yellows, to actually know what pigments are in them. But I'm going to be doing Raman light spec, radio spectroscopy, a couple different light blah blahs, different type of light analysis scanning with boop expensive machines.
Mm-hmm.
To get light wave data, stuff like that, which then I can convert into what pigments are in there, stuff like that. Or I'm just going to go screw it, we ball, take a picture, throw it through CMAT,
see what you can find.
See what I get.
Yeah, because I would love to know, because it's such a the story of it I found to be one of the more interesting elements of the product itself, rather than, you know, because I found myself not really knowing what to do with it, at least yet. Because at the end of the day, and you've made this point, some other people actually made this point, like, you could really just get the whole job done using some inks rather than just using.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's the consistency of the pigment itself, because it's very thick consistency. It's not just like watery ink. It's a very like well established. Yeah.
To be fair, some of the moisture could have come out of the models, so
yeah,
I'll have to test that.
The only thing that because I'm not the only person to have done a video on it. There's plenty of videos from back at the time. It does seem like the pigment is rather thick by comparison. Like even though mine is older, the only one that was ever actually like an issue was the Jagged Icon, because it's white pigment. It's not even in a tight seal. It's going to be a little bit thicker, or in this case, very dry. But a lot of the older videos, it's almost like paint consistency.
So white pigment, I can actually show you. I have a white paint right here. It has it is 30% solvent and it is 70% pigment. Nothing else in there except for, well, technically the solvent has a binder in it, but we're talking like 10% binder with that and that, but it's not enough for it to actually matter.
Right.
It is still as thin as an ink.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's just as thin as an ink.
Yeah,
and the pigment doesn't actually affect the viscosity all that much.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's when there's not really any binder in there. It becomes a paste-like consistency, but you can, or it's just binder and a little bit of solvent. It's a paint-like, it's a paste-like consistency. So it's one of those things where I'd have to get my hands on it to actually know.
Ah, I get you.
Okay. It's the first way you tell is by smell.
By stank.
So, different polymers will give you a different smell to them. They're not huge smells, but there's also things like
distinguishable.
rheology. Yeah, it's the rheology modifiers that also give you a distinctive smell. Like there's a specific type of binder rheology modifier mixture that also contains a specific type of surfactant, and it smells exactly like cherries. Like cherries within school glue, to be exact. Yeah, but it's like a faint of that like PVAC glue smell.
Oh,
very
yeah,
faint.
sure.
Yeah, it doesn't smell bad. It smells quite good.
Yeah, I would have to. It's a strange phenomenon. Yeah. I'm sure when interacting with it, but well, maybe not anymore. But
so the funny thing is that smell actually will tell me exactly what company that binder came from.
Interesting.
That is a trademark secret, and that smell is unique to that one company. Which I know a paint company that actually rebottles their paints. They don't get the company to make their paints. They rebottle their paints and then sell them to hobbyists. And it's hilarious to me because the owner is makes up a lot of things about it, and it's even funnier to me. I'm not going to say what paint company or who, because drama, not drama we ever want.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's once you start learning about like the smells of your polymers between brands, you can start like smelling
and telling what's what.
That's made by Vallejo. That's made by Golden. That's made by Bear and Sherman-Williams. Which that almost made me bring up a really funny story that happened on a HO scale modeling forum at one point.
Are you able to actually tell this story? Is it something that
I'm not going to mention the brands. The only brand I'll mention is Sherman-Williams.
Sure.
But so there is a weird section of mini painting called train scale modelers. Mini painting is a subsection of scale modeling, and train scale modeling, HO scale modelers, stuff like that. Model trains.
Yeah.
Those are all the parent of all of them. Those are what really came first. And trained modelers are a different breed of people.
Oh yeah.
These are some of the... how should I put this? I absolutely adore them, because these are people, they'll go out of their way to find information.
They
don't use that information. Yeah, they don't use that information
to their advantage, but it is
often.
Yeah.
But they know it, and they're like, yeah, I could, but it's more like
you just like knowing it. It's just interesting to have the knowledge in the back of your mind.
Well, a good example here is that there's a very beloved train paint company that went under, and so a bunch of the people from that community got together to find the replacement for it, or what brand made it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then they found a hobby paint company. When they were looking for it, a hobby paint company that all I'll say is it's a Texas-based one. And they were making these huge claims. Turns out they just get Sherman-Williams paint, and Sherman-Williams was who was making the paint that they wanted. So they would literally just go to Home Depot, buy that paint there. They'd bring in a color swatch, buy that paint, and it's the exact same paint.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Which, fun fact, house paint and hobby paints are chemically identical. The only major difference is that hobby paints have more solvent. Solvent being water. So chemically speaking, they're effectively identical to the layman.
So, any suggestions on paints I should use for my from Home Depot?
I mean, if you want Goblin Green, can get a giant bottle of it for like $6.
Oh my god! Any specific brand, any specific name that I could find it under, or just bring a swatch?
You just bring a swatch to copy it as best they can. It's not always going to be super accurate,
but it's within. Yeah,
it's close enough. It's going to be the paint mixtures they have there depends on the store, but a lot of them are either going to be strictly CMY,
sure,
or more advanced. Some of them are going to have also chromium oxide and yellow ochre, which are very common in wall coatings and really important anyways for wall coatings. But they'll be typically CMY, have a couple other things like chromium oxide, yellow ochre, white, etc., etc. So they'll have stuff like that. They won't necessarily get exact, but they'll get close enough to where most people won't notice or care. I mean, that's how it is. All paint is made with CMY, because CMY is the term for pigments. So, yeah, it will all basically just come down to just margin of error, or within a 3%
Yeah,
delta.
right. I think that's the most interesting part, is just how intertwined a lot of it is, and how, I think, going off of the knowledge that you've given me, there's definitely trust that I have within what you say, and I always like to be cautious with everybody, you know what I mean? But like, it seems so like a lot of hobby companies really. There seems to be not necessarily, I don't know if it's necessarily purposeful deceit, just in the hyping of their product, or it is rather just, maybe it's just the spokesman that just doesn't understand entirely what they're saying, because I can't say for certain. I don't really fully understand. I can take this in, but I don't know how to really fully apply it yet. But, it is interesting to me just how, like, the fact that a lot of these paints are very easily, you can obtain them from across the counter at just your local hardware store, and just that it's not as special as it seems, which in a way, to some people that might kind of break the magic, but to me, I find that very interesting. Just that, like, oh well, that's kind of cool actually, that it's, I get it. It and it's also the convenience of, like, not everybody wants to make their own paint. So it's not like I think a lot of people will just instantly stop buying certain paints from certain companies because they have the paints that you like. You're used to that paint. It might be different, and there might be better paints technically, but, it is all a factor of what you're used to and what your skill set kind of surrounds, It's like what we said earlier, I kind of make the claim that Citadel is a good starter for certain painters, and, you can really say that for just about any. I mean, within reason, I think. I would not say, I'm already drawing a blank on what they're called. Oh, what was that paint that
Contrast paint?
Not Contrast. They're the same company that uses similar bottles to Vallejo.
Army Painter Speed Paints?
No. I'm grabbing one out of storage really quick. Because I have one. Yeah. Scale Color.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people had a lot of problems with that paint because of the weird goop, as they call it.
Yeah. So they use a rheology modifier called hydroxyethyl cellulose, which makes a gel-like consistency within paint. Their paint is also, by the way, house paint. More so, exterior house paint without one of the chemical additives for it. So it's bordering on closer to being an alkyd, but it's also the CPV is higher than the CPVC, or the CP, whatever.
Careful with those.
The pigment volume concentration is higher than the critical pigment volume concentration on it, so you notice how it's kind of this weird like consistency and kind of feels gritty on your brush, almost. That is because the pigment volume concentration is higher than the critical pigment volume concentration, which means that within industry standards, it is actually considered a low quality paint. Which we can high pigmentation doesn't necessarily mean high quality. Who knew? Turns out low pigmentation actually means high quality. Yeah, it's a weird thing, right? People don't get it, and it doesn't make much sense until you actually work in the industry. But with Skills 75, their paints are so hard to use and so goopy because they don't use enough solvent in them.
Interesting.
And they use too much rheology modifier. The matte agent is so high. I remember how everyone was like hyping them up as the greatest paint ever, and then
nobody uses them anymore.
Right, because you have things that are, a lot of the companies like, you know what we could do? We could just switch over to dyes. And that would make everything better, because they could just go grab a medium and go grab some dye, throw the dye in the medium, get a paint, and it'll work better. Oh look, we can just do a lake pigment with chalk and the dye. Works better, makes it opaque. Perfect. They don't care if it fades. Hobbyists don't care if it fades. Look, they use fluoro pigments all the time, which are lake pigment. They're a rhodamine dye and a melamine formaldehyde resin. So, yeah, too much chemistry talk there, right?
Well, I mean, I think if I can get the gist of it, I think most people at home can get the gist of it too. So, to me, is what I'm hearing is that that's pretty rascally behavior. Yeah,
I mean, it's whatever. Paint companies, craft paints do it all the time, which it makes it really funny because a lot of hobbyists, they'll make these claims about how hobby paints are these higher technology paints and have finer particle sizes than anyone else on the market. That's why they're so expensive. I can go pull out a craft paint right now, do a particle size analyzing test against every other hobby brand. This craft paint will have a smaller particle size, less than 0 microns. And then every other craft paint or every other hobby paint is going to be at that base range of 40 to 0 microns, which is the average for most paint, especially opaque paints. When you get the super fine particle sizes, it becomes transparent.
So as far as your stance goes with that, how's the obviously you have pretty strong opinions on the old practices of certain paint companies. Is there any that are? Well, I know you didn't want to. We don't really want to name names on here. Obviously, I don't think either of us do. But
I mean, there's only one company I'm willing. Well, technically two companies, but one company I'm willing to name and slam their name into the ground.
Do tell.
Which is were you in the VC when I was explaining it last night? Actually,
I don't know if I was. I was very tired, so.
Okay. I can't really get into it in a definitely not a quote unquote family friendly YouTube channel.
I mean, I curse
you try
plenty.
to be. Yeah, well, not in your videos, but terribly too much. But that's YouTube as a nutshell. It's AK Interactive.
Interesting.
They did a lot of really, really bad things recently.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Which, why I can't bring that up in a YouTube video. That
they did really something very historically interesting, as an example.
Yeah.
Very strange. That just, to me, is are you stupid? Like...
Yeah. They are very stupid. And they did do an apology, by the way, for it. Their apology was basically, we're sorry you're offended, get over it. That was their apology message. Which, cool.
Yeah, that's... if you know, you know. Look it up if you're curious. We won't talk about it too much. Basically, a very quite sensitive historical event that they decided to depict in a diorama sense, which I don't really know why. I don't really like. It's just a very strange thing to do.
It wasn't just that. They also used footage from the camps.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Oh, I have screenshots of the video.
I assume they took it down.
I think YouTube took it down.
That's just, to me, it's just like, that's just blowing off your foot for no reason. I don't understand, it's just a weird thing to do. You know what I mean? If you genuinely believe in that, yeah, okay, whatever, fucking have fun, I guess? Weird guy. But, it's just a weird thing to do. I don't know what else to say beyond that. It's just okay, this is the hill you want to die on?
Yeah, it was obscenely stupid.
As they say, strange hill to die on, but at least you're still dead.
Yeah, here, I'm gonna send you this. I wouldn't recommend putting it in the video, but this is what I was talking about. So you actually know what I'm talking about?
Let me take a gander. We can,
yeah.
Maybe we'll put in, a reenactment, oh my god, wow.
Yeah!
Wow!
Yeah! That's bad, isn't it?
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I am going to be doing a video about this situation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't know about this. Some people don't care. Which, if you don't care, that's fine, whatever. But the people who do care and would care should know about it before they support a company that does this.
I think most people would care if they actually knew.
I've met a lot who don't care because they, quote unquote, their paints are too good not to use, and then some who just say, I have a screenshot from Reddit from a couple years ago. I'm not going to say what it said on here, but let's just say the guy told me that people of my religion, and he's assuming I'm a specific type of religion, need to get over it because it happened so long ago, and that this paint was worth it to go out of their way for.
It's just such a silly, like, again, you know, like, it's just like, why? To give context, okay, you know what, we're already gonna show people, like, I'll give kind of like a verbal example during the broadcast version. But yeah, that's wacky. Oh my god. Like, I shouldn't be laughing, but that is just... What did you think was gonna happen? What a straight... I mean, well, I don't know how much backlash they're facing, because this is like the first time I've really known about what's happening. I didn't really know the extent of that.
They faced almost none. In fact, they got a lot of praise from people instead.
Was it okay? So that's what I'm curious. Like, context wise, is it to like more respect and preserve the memory of it, to not act like, because I can understand when it comes to history, pretending something didn't happen is definitely worse than, like, you know, scrubbing it from like the history books. And if that's the case, I'm more willing to, you know, okay, I kind of get it more. But that's a pretty wacky display to just show.
Oh, well, part of their human atrocities, their condemnation book, where that whole thing happened with, they had an instruction on how to build a diorama for a drowning child who fell off a boat. If that puts anything like that into perspective of historical... Who is this for? No bad word I can't say on YouTube.
Rascals. Goobers.
Yeah, rascals. Yeah.
That to me is just like... again, to respect history is one thing. But this just seems like, I don't know, and I want to verify too before I, like, you know, before I fully just on the face of it, that's pretty friggin' wacky. That's just a strange thing to have. Like, I can't, who's displaying that in their house and go, that's cool. Like, I understand. For me personally, I'm the kind of guy that, like, you know, I definitely like a cool gory mini, right? This is a different, yeah. Can we put that on YouTube? I don't know if we can.
Well, the other picture with the second one I put on there, you probably can't.
Okay. Well, we'll explain it that it was a very strange scene that I don't know why you would try to make that into a. I like how cute it looks too, because they're just like. I'm hearing, like, you know, like all the old, like, Kevin MacLeod music that everybody used to put in all their Warhammer videos back in the day. Like the same 5 like Kevin MacLeod songs that everybody had for the intro music. Yeah, I'm just imagining this, or it's just like, you know, do you remember By Painted? That artist on YouTube. He was the little Polish dude, and he had like
the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he had very, like, kind of poppy Kevin MacLeod music. And I'm just imagining somebody with that kind of, like, demeanor making this into a YouTube tutorial where it's like, and next we're going to be applying some of our standard pigments or our streaking grime. You know, it's like just, why is this so casual in a book? Who is making this? Who is this for? Again, I shouldn't be laughing, but it's such an absurd thing to make. Oh, Jesus.
I mean, this is a company that actively sells, like, no bad word, YouTube demonetized figures. So
I mean,
from World War II.
I don't mind figures. I'm not like, because that is a historical thing. I don't mind, like, actual, you know, I think from that perspective, it's like the same thing a lot of people had with Midwinter minis, where you watch his video and I think it is just more preachy than anything, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, like, who are you trying to convince otherwise? Like, I know he was trying to do more of like a PSA on it, and it was like, again, I don't think it really needed a PSA. It was just like, okay, like, I think a lot of us think these kind of things in the back of our mind, at least. Like, yeah, there's, just because you like history doesn't mean you necessarily, like, believe in these certain events or these certain things.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, like, you know, like something like this is a different level of that. That's like, that's a really weird, that's like painting like a cool, like, diorama of like an ISIS execution. Like, that's
I mean, you could always follow the Rwandan genocide guide.
Yeah. Wait, no way.
Yes.
Not actually.
That's the same book contains that.
No.
Yes.
No, I don't want to make my commissar, my Hutu commissar. No, I can't. Oh man, this is getting wacky. This is gonna be deep in the video though, so nobody will tell on us.
God. Yeah. Hey. At least it'll be that, and the ones who care the most will be like, "Wow, that's screwed up."
Most people that will care or will like hear it will be this. This is like at the point that they're fast asleep after their melatonin kicks in, so they're gonna like. If somebody's hearing this, they're gonna be waking up and be like, "What are they? What? Whoa!"
Melatonin. Wow, you're a boomer. Everyone uses gummies now.
Yeah, melatonin gummies.
Yes, technically they're legal, so you can say it on YouTube.
Oh, right? Oh, CBT gummies.
Yeah. No, CBD,
I know.
not CBT.
Yeah, but it's funnier. It's my version is funnier.
Yeah.
I don't like how that makes me feel, to be honest. I don't know if I can even talk about that on YouTube, but I've tried it before. It's very, I just get hungry. I never get sleepy. So although at the same time, melatonin can be.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the other thing.
Oh, for like sleep? I was referring to like, this is like sleepy time stuff.
No, what you just called it. My brain was not functioning.
I definitely called it CBT on purpose.
Yeah.
Because it's funny. It's a funny thing to talk about. And what will we get demonetized for first, do you reckon? The the totally safe for work dioramas that do not depict anything naughty, or the misspelling of CBD part. This is not recorded in post.
I don't know. I think you getting hungry to
big, delicious, yummy sandwiches
might be the first thing.
Can we just we'll just dub over this and just say, by saying exactly what we're saying now and not dubbing over anything using any post-process edits. But, yeah, that's pretty wacky on AK's part. If that, and you're showing me evidence here, like that is wacky. I just don't understand the point of that. And not to drive that any further than I already had, but I don't know. And I like AK. I've never actually used their acrylics, so I can't really even say for certain if I'd like them or not. I don't really know anything about them. I know some guys that I've talked to use it plenty, and it seems interesting, but I don't know. I like what I like at the end of the day. And that's something I think a lot of people like, and maybe that's something people misconstrue with how you go about kind of talking about this stuff, because I know some people especially have kind of I think gotten the wrong idea of how you present your information, and seem to have this idea that maybe you just more of what do you think about the people that have this assumption that you're more arrogant than you actually are, because I don't think people will understand that it isn't necessarily arrogance, more so just what you've accomplished and what you've done with your career.
I can understand if people see me as arrogant. I am a little bit arrogant at times, but it's more so that when people are when their ideas and their opinions are challenged, it kind of gets them in the wrong mood. So I try not to do that. But sometimes, it will definitely come out as oh yeah, you're just being arrogant. Shut up.
Yeah,
because I go off on a weird, no, that's not a good product. The quality control for it is really bad. So it's a functional product. If their quality control was better, it would be a really good product. But no, it was like 3 out of 4 things are fine. That because it's 25% failure rate, that means it's bad. You need under 1% or under 10% to even qualify. So yeah, it's one of those things. But think of me as arrogant. I don't care. I'm not terribly arrogant. I'm not really, full of myself. I don't know a lot, and I try to make that clear to people that I'm a moron. But, I just tend to, reverberate whatever the word is.
Yeah, regurgitate.
Yeah. Regurgitate whatever I read. So that's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think there's any harm in it when you you don't mean anything with it, because it is just and I don't think I don't think you really expect a lot of people to just follow the way that, you've talked about your collection of paints and how much shit that you have over all the years.
Oh yeah.
I think it's not entirely realistic for everybody to do and practice the same things that you do with pigments and paints.
Oh, well, the majority of what I do is basically just wear a mask and safety goggles when I airbrush and work with pigment. That's the bulk of what you need to do, so I can expect that, right?
Well,
right?
I mean more so in your collection of strange exotic paints, not every hobbyist wants to use golden, right?
Right.
But
which fair. I'm still gonna recommend them using golden for white and black and brown.
I still do need to try
because
it.
Of the paints. Yeah. I'll be sending you a bottle.
Ooh.
So, specifically so flat white. So
we need to harass Linky more to send us stuff.
Yeah.
That's selfish.
Threaten her more.
You hit her a few times, pour gasoline in her bed, cool stuff like that.
Or see, that's coward stuff. Pour sugar in her gas tank.
Pour sugar in her eyes. And then pour sugar in her gas tank. I don't know, probably hurt a lot.
Use salt. No, not salt. Use pour some 3D printing resin all over her bed.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh God. Oh no. Oh jeez.
What?
Ouch.
Hey, it'll hurt. Roll over, get in your eyes. Oh God, that burns. I've gotten in my eyes before by accident too. And that is the reason why I always wear safety goggles around my 3D printer now.
Yeah, no. Well, that's the thing too. Is also with I don't think people understand even clipping away excess 3D print resin, the supports, that ricochets. I got that under my eye once, and that sucked. And I got it out, obviously.
And now,
yeah, and now I wear safety goggles doesn't matter if it's cured resin, doesn't matter, obviously when I'm painting, that's a different story. But
no.
Your eyes are important, I think. I would like to take care of my eyes for the rest of my life, if I can help it.
Yeah, it's worth the $3 for a pair of cheap safety glasses.
Well, and for my, I have a lot of safety glasses around here, so there's literally no excuse for me.
I have, I think, 200 pairs, and I still forget to wear them sometimes.
It's one of those things. I keep it by my printer now, just so I remember, because it's it really is that 2 seconds that you need to put them on that can save you from having it's like a more extreme version of when you miss being able to breathe through your nose when you have a cold. I really miss when I didn't have resin under my eyelid. Or my eyes didn't burn. But with that, I think one of the things that's one of the more interesting things to me is just the lack of, and I think more of it is coming out recently with the more popularization of 3D printing, because a lot of people just didn't know the risks of it somehow. And I never understood, like just not even wearing gloves with it is such a strange thing to me. But
the only thing that's going to happen generally if you don't wear gloves with it is you're just potentially going to get allergic to 3D printing resin. You don't want to have any open cuts, that is, and you should still wear gloves, but getting some 3D printing resin on your skin isn't the end of the world. From what we know currently, at least.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like with vaping, where we don't entirely know the risks and whatnot, but one thing that I thought was very, that was something that I always thought about, and I'm actually using some right now, is this stuff. If you remember this. Remember the UV resin that we had from Green Stuff World? Oh, that was actually a topic I wanted to talk about. What is your opinion on Green Stuff World? Because I've heard some pretty wacky stories from their
I don't... God, that is... I think the company is awful. As a company, they're terrible. Yeah, because obvious reasons, through the DMCing that YouTuber for using the term color shift, which I can go pull out a bottle of Plaid right now, and they own their bottle says color shift on it. So screw you, Green Stuff World. You don't own that. I think their paints are overhyped. They're not very good. Their pigments that they sell are just grossly overpriced. Like, jeez. They're really overpriced. You can go to a pigment supply store, which I know not many people want to do that, but you can get the same pigment for in a larger container for about the same price. So
I know it's partially because they're an overseas operation, but like I always, even like back in the day when I got like this stuff. They showed no safety precautions when using this stuff, and I never understood why. I mean, I'm being a little wacky right now just by, Yeah. I do have we'll put on a protective mask, obviously, but I think one of the things that I never understood with, with the hobby is just how utterly, there seems to be not so much a focus on any safety equipment with it, which I never really understood, because for a lot of things regarding art and the hobby, or hobbies in general, you're working with chemicals. Typically chemicals are not good to ingest.
I mean, well, that's kind of a layman's way of looking at it, because what is an apple? An apple is nothing but chemicals.
Yeah, that's a good. Sorry.
Yeah,
you know what I meant though.
But yeah, no, I know exactly what you meant. But most people are either going to ignore it, or they're going to take the non-toxic label at face value. Take for instance, Vallejo's Flow Improver. It's 97% water, 3% 2-butoxyethanol. 2-butoxyethanol has been linked to a lot of workplace hazards and workplace deaths.
So, just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things where it's a fairly noxious chemical. Yeah, you're using it in a very diluted form, where, technically speaking, they could call it non-toxic, because you're not going to be drinking the bottle.
Right. I suppose that's the biggest thing, is the context behind how the labels are applied.
Yeah. But that's the thing, non-toxic labeling, it's really stupid. So for it to be legal, all you have to do is the exposure rate has to be lower than X amount over the course of an 8-hour period, while wearing proper protective gear. Right? It's entirely having to do with 8-hour exposure period while wearing proper protective gear for that chemical, or as a whole, proper protective gear. or an industry standardized protective gear. Noise certified organic vapor fume things, stuff like that. That's how you get non-toxic. So you can get these chemicals that are actually quite poisonous within everything. And people are going to go, oh, it's non-toxic. This means that a child could consume it. No! That's not what it means at all. It doesn't actually mean anything anymore. And companies will sell you poisonous materials and be able to legally call it non-toxic.
Because there's no standardization behind it.
Right. Well, there is, but it's too lenient.
I get you.
It's for an industrial sector. That's what it's the problem. It's for entirely an industrial sector. And when you take the industrial side out of it, it's like, okay, was it apple seeds? Arsenic is in there. You consume an apple seed, that arsenic, there's just too little of it for it to matter.
Okay, I see what you mean now. Yeah.
In a home setting, the concept of that is that they're going to be using way less of this, and they're not going to be, drinking paint, except this is like the first hobby I've ever seen where drinking paint is considered a challenge and a dare, kind of like drinking Tide Pods. Like, what? It reminds me of the Tide Pod thing. I swear, if I don't have TikTok, I will never watch TikTok, but if I ever go on there, I am 100% sure I'm going to see somebody vaping GW paint.
I was curious, what is your opinion on brush lickers?
No comment.
There's a lot of painters I really respect that do that. And every time
use the palm of your hand.
Yeah. No, I made a video with Mr. Bones 40K way back at the beginning of the channel. And one of the points I made is don't lick your brush, because it was a joke video. But I honest to God, don't, you look like a baby. Get that out of your mouth. What's wrong with you? To me, it's I made an image of it and I've put it in many of my videos, but it's the Chris Griffin when he's huffing a vape, but I just placed a brush in there, and it genuinely it's a spitting image of what these people look like. And it's always people that I know are smart, and it's what, get that out of your mouth. I'm gonna hit you.
But how do I get a fine point on there? Oh, this is actually a funny story talking about brush lickers. So, I was, let's just say, yelling at a guy, because he's licking his brush in his stream. And he was trying to prove me wrong and make a joke about it, because I said, use your palm. And he was like, well, that's not going to work at all. And I'll show you. He does it. It's
purposely doing it wrong. Oh, okay.
No, he just went, oh, okay, that worked better than licking my brush. And he stopped licking his brush after that.
Oh, good. Well, you taught him. You taught him right. You taught him young.
Yeah.
Maybe not young, but
he taught himself by trying to fuck with me, right? Whoops.
You saved a life. No, it's okay. We can just censor it. I don't care.
Yeah. We get one of those every 30 minutes, right?
I do it once in a while, and I never face consequences. So we're praying like hell. Well, I'll just censor it. I have plenty of funny cartoon sons to censor and curses. So
perfect, cool, yeah. But yeah, dude tried to oh yeah, no, I know better than you do. You're the one that deals with safety.
Oh.
Does that and oh, that worked better. Okay. Yeah. Oh god. To be fair, there's a lot of really stupid things hobbyists do that drive me nuts. There's a famous the brush licking is one of them, but there's a fairly famous Instagrammer who who promotes this technique of doing an oil wash and then spraying an acrylic over it. One, he doesn't wait long enough for the oil paint to dry to do that.
Right.
Two, you can't do that because, well, it's an oil paint and that's a water-based paint. It will delaminate. Two, this is also one of the guys who says wear gloves when you're painting because the hand oils will prevent adhesion of acrylic paints. And isn't putting two and two together with oil paints and hand oils.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody does that. And then I pointed it out to people that know not to do. They're like, I've never put those two together. And just like, how have you not? You're smart, dude.
It's sometimes, and I think it is one of those things that like some of the smartest people do not have the most common sense. I'm definitely an example. Oh, wait, no, I'm not that smart. What are you talking about? Never mind. Yeah.
What your education is based off of Newports and what girly mags? Right?
That and maybe I don't know, some Hennessy. I don't really like Hennessy. What do I like? I like Linden Lager. I like me some Summer Shandy, and I like Crown Royale. I have a very weird palate, so it's kind of all over the place.
You like? Okay. I'm going to have to put you out of your misery for saying Crown Royale was one of your favorites.
No, it's one of my favorites. It's just one of my. You know what? No. Scratch the record. One of my favorites that I've gotten to have recently is Kirin. It's my favorite lager. Is Kirin.
Okay.
That's a classic. I just had to think. Crown Royale was on my brain apparently because I talked about it with somebody else recently. It's definitely not a favorite. It's just one that I know.
Okay. Well, as long as you're not repping it as good.
So you're a liquor snob as well, or not? Alcohol.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Canadian whiskey.
Yeah, I know. I was just curious. Like, you should have a channel dedicated to that too.
I'm far from being a beer snob. You know what I drink a lot? PBR.
What's PBR?
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
That's the most agnostic beverage out there. I'm told, next to Diet Dr. Pepper. It's a South Park reference for everybody at home.
That was also one for me because I didn't know that reference.
But just overall, like I think one of the things that it's interesting to me because I think just getting to know the personality more, because I've watched some of your videos, and for people that obviously we have the link down in the description for your channel. But there's a lot of things that you haven't talked about in today's episode that I know you want to talk about more on your channel. And I think a lot of people are... if this isn't a good introduction, I think, what else can I say? It's... you're definitely more on the character side in terms of, the people that we see online talking about this stuff. So it is very interesting to me. And I think, like, the opinionation of what you say... it makes it interesting, and while some people may not agree, you cannot deny that it's like people like that kind of confidence, people like that kind of brashness, and I think a lot of people kind of like the I wouldn't necessarily call you an antagonist, but you're definitely more on the side of like you just kind of say what it is.
Yeah, I'm a little bit too blunt at times. I fully admit that. A little bit too I can be a little bit of antagonist, yeah, but not on purpose. It's well-meaning.
Well, I think that's the thing too, is a lot of people need to understand that it is not out of like, I'm gonna drill up shit. It's more just like, yeah, well, you've gone through this stuff, you know what you know, and
yeah,
that's one of the more I think too, yeah.
It's definitely a divisive thing within the community because you challenge somebody's as I said before, like you challenge their opinion with something better, then they have this like a sunken cost fallacy, so they feel like they have to defend it a lot of the time. So it can get kind of aggressive, especially when it comes to like pro acryl and stuff like that. There's a term I use, and I think a lot of people I've talked to have agreed with it. Cult of pro acryl existing.
Yeah.
Where some people will take it like as the greatest thing ever, and then never experiment or try anything else because this was the perfect thing. There can't be anything better than this one thing. So I'm going to attack everything else that isn't this.
Yeah, and
then attack everyone who criticized the brand.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, I definitely like Procryl, but I think to be, I think the most like the one product I've ever really like simped for at this point is definitely just Quar, because I love these little dudes. But that's different. Like, I never understand like straight up just like brand like tribalism, because I think that's just like it's like, okay, you're just you're talking like a monkey. You're not talking like a person does. You're like, you can say bad things about companies alike. And it was, a lot of people, not a ton, because I did a video on Procryl because it was my first experience with it. And I really do like Procryl, especially by my standard of like the hobbyist standard. I would say it's quite high because of just what I'm able to pull off with it as compared to like some other companies and brands that I've used. But, especially, talking earlier about the bottles, I got a lot of people that were like mad that I had the audacity to say I don't like these bottles. And it was like, a lot of people saying like, like you can buy different bottle caps, and it's like, oh, I'd rather have those rather than, I don't want to pay extra money to rebottle my bottles, you know what I mean? And you can, but at the same time, I also understand the argument of like, oh, well, you do the same with Citadel. Well, yeah, that's fair. But I can still criticize it. And then it got to a point where some people are just like criticizing the actual manufacturers like on a personal level. And it's like, okay, this has nothing to do with anything I just said. Like, you're just a little dickhead. Like, shut up.
Yeah. I have a lot of bottles that have the same type of twist top horsepout things, and they're fine. I'm also more used to the bottle tops, and a lot of people aren't. It's just the same thing with like living clamp tops, which most people on a paint bottle, they're unusual, right?
Right.
Golden uses them, for instance. Vallejo uses a different type, but Shampoo uses it. Yeah, that's a living clamp on that. For those that don't know, there's a trick with them that a lot of people also like. They'll criticize as like, oh, it constantly spills out. Unscrew the top ever so slightly, and then close it, and then screw it back down. That will release the air. The paint won't squirt up that way if you're having problems with that in the paint. Easy. Fixes it. Yeah, not one person gave me that advice in my last video, or my video on it. Yeah, with the screw tops, the twist tops. Yeah, they're not the most ideal type of top, but the whole thing is you don't try to untwist them super far. You untwist them a very little bit, pour a little bit of paint, close them while they're upside down, wipe it off. You don't have issues. Yeah, I think it is because it feels like you're wasting more than you actually are. It's like with yeah, like I think you wipe it on your wet palette. Yeah, right there. You don't waste it. Exactly. So. There's one, and we've talked about this before. One brand that I really, really hate because it doesn't seem like it needs to be, and I like the paint. They're my favorite shade comes from them, or some of my favorites rather. Why is it that Duncan Rhodes paint or the paint bottles basically do everything in their power to shoot as much paint out and waste as much money as possible? Oh, that's because they use tube epoxy ethanol in the paint. Really? So it's the physical paint. Yep. Yeah, it's so tube epoxy ethanol. I explained that earlier. Or I don't know if I explained it in this video, but it's not a flow improver. It's a speed dryer for paint. So Vallejo flow improver is not a flow improver. But what it does is it does reduce surface tension, and when you add that in addition to the wetting agent, you can get problems where the paint will shoot out of the bottle. Ah, so it doesn't really matter. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those. Is it a bad idea to do? Not necessarily for if you're going for that type of thing, but at the same time, I think it's kind of a stupid idea to do because speed drying paint is not a smart idea in the first place for actual reasons of physics, because they're thermoplastics.
Yeah.
And if you speed dry them, the film shrinks too much.
I think people would like the paints better if they actually were in bottles. I mean, they would hate it just because, or not in bottles, but rather the pots. Like,
yeah,
as much as people, you know, it is like the physical barrier of what they dislike about pots, but I have lost more paint out of a bottle. Like, good example, my especially the shades, because I really like how the shades dry with Duncan's shades. I just really kind of like I like the dullness that they leave with them better than, like, you know, a lot of GW shades. But like, especially on those, the ones that I care about the most, like half the bottle's gone. I've lost so much of my I actually bought some the other day because I like the paint so much, but I'm losing it, and I don't. So I know some people are saying that it's not going to be shipped to the US anymore. I don't know if that's true or not. I want to be. I'll fact.
Duncan Roads.
Yeah, is that like fully true, or is it just the newer stuff isn't going to be shipped over?
I think I haven't heard anything about either one not being shipped over. I do know it's a bit of a problem to ship things over right now.
Yeah.
But that's not because of some, like, geopolitical thing. That's because of temperature.
Oh, okay.
The temperature of the shipping crates is so hot that the paint will actually melt, and when you use the speed dryers, they tend to be acrylic paints are thermoplastics. You expose them to heat, they dry, right? Mm-hmm. When you have a speed dryer in there, it reduces the amount of temperature you need a lot of the time, because it will cause the solvent the water to evaporate out quicker from the paint, so you'll get drier things. So they have to ship them at a very specific time during the year, and it's getting much harder and harder because unless you have the antifreeze thing in there, which some companies will label that as non-toxic. It's not antifreeze, but it's a chemical that prevents freezing and it's a good drink. But as I digress, unless you have that in there and your chemist knows of it, because not all paint chemists know of these chemicals, and I've met a lot who don't, and I have to tell them about it, which that's not a big deal. It's actually kind of a trade secret, but is. Unless you have that in your paint, you're not shipping it during winter either. So shipping it overseas is a nightmare, which means then now you have to do air freight, which for a bunch of paints that have chemicals that have import restrictions, yeah, you're probably not shipping them in an air freight. Especially when you need a large quantity of them.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, they're liquids. They're heavier than people think they are. So you have, for instance, let's take a rack. Rack will have what? I don't know how large its color range is. Let's say 160 colors to be as a conservative. Right? For both sides of them, stuff like that. And you know what? Let's make it even more conservative. 120 paints, including washes, stuff like that.
Right.
Include that. The rack, you have a ton of air freight space. You have a ton of now weight there because the shop needs the rack. You are selling them the rack and you're shipping them the rack to fit your specific type of your specific size of bottle.
I never thought about
not all racks will fit. Yep. That's actually when one of the stores around here, they try to get Green Stuff World paint. They were not allowed to buy their paint. They had to buy their rack because their bottles were ever so slightly a different size than another brand. That was kind of one of the tricks. So they had to buy their rack, and one of the stupid things was this was years ago.
Yeah.
When they tried to reorder, they had to buy a new rack, and the rack cost them extra money.
Oh God.
And it's just like, what? Why can't we just buy the paint? Because you have to buy the rack. That's how it is. Like,
just the way
they stopped carrying Green Stuff World after one rack. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise. Well, that's the thing. I don't know anybody over here that carries Green Stuff World. Because...
it's because nobody wants it.
Yeah.
They want a few of the, like, the metal pigments, which... Those you can get at really any art store. They're metal pigments. Some of them are mica or mica cut metal.
Well, and it seems like a lot of other companies are doing the metal pigments too.
Yeah. Well, you can go to Amazon right now and get a pound of it, or
oh Jesus,
a pound or two of it for about $20. So,
just cheeky. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same type of mesh. It's a 320 to 350 mesh. Particle size, so very small. It's for bronze casting. It's for aluminum casting.
It's for everybody at home. It's bronze.
There's bronze and brass.
That's the jump scare at the end that they're not expecting. Sorry, that's an established thing on the channel. It's because I couldn't remember bronze color for Procryl because their bronze looks like a brass to me, so I kept calling it brass. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's fair. Brass is more gold, bronze is more brown.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And that's why I recorded it in my original video that I got the paints. I just have a very close-up clip of me saying bronze. I should probably put that on like a soundboard for the people that have it enabled. I like you, I do not have soundboard enabled, so I can let them have fun and torture one another.
Yeah, I was God, I remember when they released the soundboard for Discord, and we I was a mod in a very large YouTuber's Discord, and it was a military history YouTuber. Those who know me know who I am from there. Yes, I miss some of you too. I hate the rest of you, but
jeez.
I remember when they released soundboard, and the first day, the admins weren't on when they released it, so the users were able to use their own custom ones. We had so many people blasting. The bad guy World War II leader Axis guy? His speech,
the mustache man. The mustache man.
Yeah,
I'll call him that.
Yeah, toothpick mustache man. Yeah, that dude, the mustache man. His speech, or racial slurs over that.
So funny.
I have not had it on since.
Let me guess. It's the same people at AK Interactive that made a very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, probably at this point.
But yeah, that's yeah, it's interesting to me. Like obviously, Green Stuff World seems to be like the most interesting and cool things that they have are just weird gadgets, and that's about all that I ever purchased from them, because that's like when UV resin became very popular, or not. It might have been popular before this, but they were the first company within my memory that utilized these little bottles of dropper, clear UV. They had all kinds of...
those things have existed forever.
Oh, I'm sure. I just that I remember within my memory of like getting into the hobby, because I've only been doing this for about 10 years. But the thing that I always there's a lot of controversies I heard about them where a lot of their products, a lot of the gadgets themselves were like these weird like Chinese designed products that they were basically reselling without permission or something. I don't want to be accusatory, because that's just a rumor, at least to my knowledge. I don't know how well fact-checked that is, so take that with a grain of salt.
No, that is... I actually do know they are drop shipping. They're relabeling stuff and drop shipping.
Interesting. Okay.
But that's not the only company that does it. Army Painter does it. Like most of Army Painter's products, you can go onto AliExpress right now, go buy the exact same thing they're selling, but it's like 1/10 the cost.
Examples, or do you think you couldn't talk about it?
Well, okay. If you can censor this next thing, I'm going to be talking about a brush that people have been hyping up. censor the brand name.
McGinky brand brushes. Okay.
They have a brush set that people have been hyping up recently. I have the exact same brush set right here, which you can see on camera. It's just a different thing.
You have to take a picture of it, unfortunately.
Well, no, I'm not going to show you. I'm going to show you on my camera, if you can see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. These are from the exact same brand. I got 10 of them for $1.
Ah.
And I'm turning it into a video because I have to go through a lot for it, because it has to do with a really weird thing. And I'm not going to blame the company for this, because it might be a misunderstanding, but at the same time, they're marketing it as something it's not.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And it's entirely comes down through a mistranslation.
Fair enough.
And that's kind of the trick. Yeah. It's not something, but yeah, this
it's not like an intentional like malicious.
No. They might not have done their due diligence for researching. They might have talked to the people. They saw the term, not know what it meant. The company didn't explain it to them, which of course the company wouldn't explain it to them. But yeah, there's a lot of companies that will go to AliExpress or Alibaba, especially within the hobby, get the cheap gadgets and charge a huge markup for them. That's not the only one.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's a very commman business practice, unfortunately. Yeah. Since almost the beginning
even
of
more
time.
so within this hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
was it like the brand Display is almost entirely that.
I don't
really
know
loved.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Display is a company that people in the Gunpla community really love. But what they do is
I see. Yeah. Okay. Now I recognize.
Yeah.
Them.
Yeah. And what I know a couple of I'm just going to say Twitch streamers who have a large following. What they've done is they've gone to the same manufacturers as Display and then claimed that they engineered this and built this product themselves, because there's no way of disproving it unless you have access to, the same distributors, which I do, because I have a business account in Alibaba to buy Pigments. Huzzah. But yeah, it's weird, right? But yeah, these people will do that. They'll claim that they did all these designs and that stuff like that, and it all came down to their ingenuity. People believe it because they can't find the product anywhere because it's on Alibaba, which Google really doesn't grab pictures from Alibaba at all for good reason. So yeah, that's kind of thing. That's just this hobby. It's a lot of marketing hype. It's a lot of people talking up a big game with people that don't know better. It's just like the whole what was it? Army Painter did this video for their Fanatics line where they talked about 300 to 700% more pigmentation in their Fanatic line.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Everybody was going nuts about it. Yeah, I mentioned that when we first when we talked a while back. But like, people were like, "Oh my god, it's so much pigmentation!" And my initial response was, "So it went from 0.2% to 0.3%." Like, no, you're talking this big game, and they'll talk up this huge game of like, "Oh yeah, we could put 80% pigmentation in the bottle." Like, no, you physically can't. That's just marketing talk speaking.
Right.
Let the chemist talk. Oh wait, you can't because he's an organic chemist, which means he'll talk about all of your trade secrets because they get really excited to talk about this stuff, which is why you can't actually have your chemists or talk to the public. Yeah, I'm not. If you can tell, I'm the person that talks to the chemists.
Yeah,
and I know what I can say and what I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And you see how much I talk about this stuff. I'm the same type of person. We can't shut up about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting subject, and especially if you're engrossed in it, I can totally understand the So much different from just talking about your dudes, to be honest. It's just the excitement of your hobby is, you know.
Oh yes, and I will admit that my knowledge base, like of how the industry works, of these, you know, the quote unquote drop shipping things like Green Stuff World, stuff like that. You know, it does kill my my enjoyment of the hobby a fair bit. My knowledge of paint chemistry really
it's like
does.
Learning about film and learning about like, you know, story perspective and stuff like that. It's like with any sort of like trade secret.
Yeah, having knowledge is great, but at the same time, it is a double-edged sword. It's
when you can't unsee something. Yeah. Like, if anyone ever peeks into my Discord, what they'll see is, you know, a bunch of people, specifically Worm Oracle, going off on like a tangent about how much he hates DuPont, or me going off on a tangent about how much I hate DuPont, because you do a small research thing, it turns into a 12-day research stint, and next thing you know know less than you did before because DuPont changed the meaning of something back in the 1960s. And then changed the formula later on, and then changed the term again in, like, you know, the 80s, and then change it in the 2000s. And then all the companies have to follow them because they aren't the ones that own the trademark. Stuff like that. I don't even know where I was trying to go with that. We're just rambling, honestly. Though, I will okay, somebody's... Oh, wait a moment. There we go. Somebody upstairs was itching themselves rather loudly. But, I think with that, with us closing in on almost 2 hours now, I think we should,
really?
Yeah. I think we should probably start wrapping up, and if there's any... Alright. Dude. Thank you. If there's anything else you would rather, any kind of parting words, any parting thoughts you would like to bring up?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is stop drinking known oil.
But it's so tasty.
It's not funny.
It's delicious.
The second thing is don't be scared to mix your own colors, and don't be scared to make your own washes. You need to save money. Save money. You can buy more minis if you make your own thing.
That's true.
Mix your own colors.
I don't have legs though. I don't have legs. I can't do it. I don't have legs.
But you can use your arms.
But I'm trying to sleep. I'm so sleepy. I can't do it.
But you can use your arms to do it, and then you can sleep later.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. That's just the thing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you though.
Yeah.
No, I think like a lot of people, there's some really interesting washes you can create very easily, and that's something I definitely want to do on the channel at some point.
Oh yeah, I have a bunch of wash recipes. I'll gladly share them with you.
Yeah, I mean,
test them out.
Obviously, it would be kind of fun just like within the whenever we finally get to do the follow up on the tint set, just adding in like extras and just like cool little gadgets and things that you can come up with. I don't know why the word gadget is in my head, but just cool little tricks and whatnot that we can learn from you, because I know you definitely have more things planned.
Oh yeah, I do have some washes actually I made the other day for somebody, so I can throw a bottle in there for you.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to. You can explain in that video whenever that may come out. But
yeah, I also can throw in my homemade contrast paint too.
Ooh, more goodies.
Yeah, that was a really excruciating chemical breakdown to find that, by the way. Really bad chemical breakdown.
I assume you're going to be talking about that in your video on it. I assume that's something that you want to make a video. Yeah,
that is a planned video. The simple point of it was contrast paint has a very, very specific type of smell to it, as I explained earlier. Things like that. And I knew what the polymer was in it. The problem was it didn't make any sense because of how liquidy it was.
Interesting.
And I figured it out.
Ooh.
I figured out what it was.
Cool.
And how they did it.
Yeah.
And it's the stupidest thing they could have possibly done, but it's hilarious and it works. So,
well, I can guarantee you at least some people here that, and if you stuck around this long, I appreciate it. Also, if you're sleeping in bed right now, this is the problem with like sleeping stuff, as I really want to put in just like it would be really hard for me just in post editing. Like I really want to put in like just like very soft, like no, not even that, just like soft weeping and like a really scary image just on screen. So they'll wake up and it'll be like too quiet and they'll just be hearing like or something like that. Anyway, aside from terrorizing my audience for no reason, I think we're all very excited to see what you're bringing next on the channel, because there's some interesting stuff already. And just the perspective of it is very fun to learn about.
Yeah, I there was one video that just exploded on me. Yes, I know it's not that many views, but like
by comparison,
I didn't know people were that interested in finding a cyan pigment that actually functions like cyan.
It's different.
That was really cool.
Yeah, no, I think, and obviously, I'm hoping my goal with this obviously too is like I wanna bring more of my audience to like other cool factors and just cool channels that are rather underappreciated, I think. And I think you're obviously making the rounds right now. You're getting there, and I'm very curious to see what we can come up with and what you can extrapolate rather in our coming video whenever Linky gets her ass in gear, basically.
Yeah, I think I know what it is, but there's an off feeling that that one of them is going to be something called Theoindigoid, which hasn't existed in about 15 years.
Ooh.
So I'm really scared of it. I do have it, but I'd rather not use it.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be do an episode on that too, just like lost pigments. Just talking about that kind of stuff is such a cool. People like to hear about that. It's part of the lost media. People, they like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, at least that's what the cyan video was mostly about. It was just kind of like a headache that I had and a rant. So, but yeah, lost pigment stuff is going to be a thing. That's kind of what the cyan video was about, because I was using manganese blue PB33, pigment blue 33, which they stopped producing in 1993, and phthalocyan PB17, pigment blue 17, which they stopped producing over a decade ago as well. And without them, we don't have good replacements. So I do tackle a lot of lost pigment stuff, which turns out a lot of my overlap is with a guy who also does a lot of similar things like that, which was really cool to find out. I'm really happy about that. But
it's cool. It's a cool thing to think about. Is just like it's people like lost stuff, and it's always like weird. People like lost tapes, and I mean, people are obsessed with like weird, SpongeBob episodes that didn't air because of some stupid shit, like something actually interesting, like lost paint pigments and how deep the rabbit hole really goes with that kind of stuff. I think like you have an untapped market with that, at least, and I think I think a lot of people show up for that stuff, and at least they will.
Yeah, the pigment collector community is really small, so we tend to know each other fairly well as well. So I can get really rare things that people don't know about unless they're in the community too.
Yeah.
I have a lot of really bizarre things and some interesting projects I'll share with you later too that I'll be going public with later. But I like one of the things I'm really excited about. This video that I'm working on currently is going to cost me almost $40,000 to do.
Jesus.
I am doing the original classic color theory. This required me to get a pigment called Fra Angelico Lapis Lazuli. This is $30,000 a kilogram. And I couldn't buy less than a kilogram of it. So I'm not going broke from the video. I'm reselling most of it in paint and making my money back, but it's still yeah, it's a lot of money.
The education, yeah.
It's a huge thing. I also might use one of the lower end ones because that's what the more common ones is. But the red and the yellow, they're still over $1,000 a kilogram, and they're really hard to get. And because they're both made out of arsenic.
That is, I mean, even from the things that you've taught me, you know, and I've learned from like that, I is this at a premium or is this at a like did you get this price from like a friend or whatever, or is this just
that's the business price. Yeah.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, but yeah.
I do have some things that I can't discuss how much I got it for. In my my videos, like the manganese blue, I cannot discuss how much I got that for. I also can't discuss anything about it. The only thing I can say is that the company I worked for makes it, but I cannot get the pigment from the company I work for. So I have to go through other people.
Fair enough.
I also can make pigments, which I have, but yeah, there's some things that I just like. Yeah, that's a friend thing.
Right. I gotcha. No, I think that's some of the most interesting stuff is just learning that kind of the weird niche. People like weird niche, and that's I think you definitely cover that ground very well. In a very not weird as in like you know, I'm not making fun of it. Obviously, it's what YouTube is kind of all about now, and I think you've got something that has a lot of potential to blow up.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can do that with this video as well. And you know, if you're watching this and if you're awake, just want to say please go over and give him some love because he deserves it.
Yeah. I have actual elephant ivory pigment as well. So that's
made with real elephant. It is. Literally.
Yeah, it's from 1840, I think 1843. So
it's an old ass elephant.
I got some of the rare things that are illegal these days. So
see, it's illegal,
exactly.
So it's fun.
Yeah. See?
I can't make those jokes. I was gonna say something 3D print plans or something like that.
Oh god. Something 3D printer go burr.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
But with that, I think we've flapped our beaks aplenty. Thank you very much for coming on here. I'm glad that we actually got to. This is a very last minute rendezvous that we kind of did this, but I liked it. I think we both had fun.
I didn't expect it to go this long either. So.
We were planning to talk about John Blanche, and I think we talked about him for all of a minute, and then it just turned into just like yapping.
Yeah,
it's the App Shack.
I meant to talk about the pigments he used. I did technically.
Yeah, we just literally like for the entire thing just. No, I think it's worth it though. But yeah, again, friggin' give him some love. Check out his channel in the description. And remember to Mish, Kitbash, and paint some fantastic miniatures. Do you want to have your outro?
Bye, I guess.
I thought you were just going to say yeah. Until next time. Love you.